We've talked so much about the fact that oil prices are falling, and then we know that the National Assembly agreed on the benchmark for oil price at $53 per barrel. How much worse do you think this will get for the state government? Because it also means that if oil prices don't stabilize on the global scene, we might not have so much accruing to the excess crude account.
Yeah, so the excess crude account would even be nothing will mask accrued, because the excess crude account is you take this, you skim off the benchmark. Meaning if your benchmark is $3 and get to 55, you skim off the $2 per barrel to put in the excess crude account. Now, yesterday or 2 days ago, even the prices dropped below the benchmark to like $52.98 per barrel. So there's a big challenge in that space. And we have analysts saying we could get worse as worse as $43 per barrel going forward. So the challenge is every state governor has to sit up. And to really sit up is to look at your revenue first. The biggest part of the revenues comes from FAC. Then you also have to look at your efficiency in terms of the internal generated revenue. Sometimes to really deflate these issues is to also look at employment opportunities. How are you going to expand that? Not you opening up another public sector job creation scheme like you have seen in some states within the southwest here, where they do a traffic project or they employ people. It becomes a problem in the long run. So what you need to do is, how are you going to position your agricultural sector? If you have some mining structure, how are you going to position your mining sector? If what you are going to be strong in is in terms of garment, clothing, or textile manufacture, how are you going to also position yourself? How are you going to extract the entire value chain? So it doesn't mean that you have farmers who are just producing, but basically cannot export, or cannot basically transport, or cannot even put much more better market, more valuable in the markets like Lagos, Port Harcourt, or maybe in the Niger Delta. How are you also going to make sure that you help them explore the entire value chain so that you can also maximize that? Most of these things are what is going to count in the long run, because for the oil price that it is, and for the alternatives that we find out in shale or U.S. dependence on oil and revenue, the outlook for oil, it's not really that rosy. So the questions start with revenue. Second thing is expenditure, the efficiency of that. There has to be more efficiency. Ghost workers are issues, and if you are still if a state government is still battling ghost workers, as it is a problem really. You need to bring up efficiency in that space. The World Bank with the federal government worked on the IPPIS, not still completed, but I think most state governments have to tap into that to adequately profile what it is that they need, that the manpower they need for their workforce. And if you know you are having excess manpower, it's time to take the strong decisions. I know there's a lot of backlash from the labor unions, but if you sit up and also look at it, you also have to be objective. Most state governments also have special advisors, special advisors, a lot of people still hanging all around, and who also put a whole lot of pressure on public finances. So it's time to be very, very, very lean. I won't be mad, even though it'll be like if the state government is fighting economic class in the long run, but it's time to be very, very lean. Take the strong decisions, because it's, even for Niger Delta states, a lot of Niger Delta states are also running on high level of debt. A state like Bayelsa took a 50 billion naira loan bond some few years ago. There's still a charge of over $1 billion a month on Bayelsa State's revenue. Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom at the time was getting 24 billion naira per month from FAC allocation. On January, it got 15 billion naira. So there's a cut of 9 billion naira off from that space already. So clearly, they will also face it. Some of them are also invested in grandiose, large projects with huge obligations to contractors. And also, you understand the terrain of that space, that what it costs to do a project in the north is much cheaper than do a project in this kind of terrain. So there's a big problem there. Even they also have to not think about, oh, we have oil, or we also going to get a lot of money, but it's also going to come back and eat everybody at the end of the day.
But Sharon, there's also still talk that the federal government may likely deregulate petroleum subsidy. You know, in the long run, there's definitely going to be another impact on the state governments. But how bad is it going to be?
If you look at the charge for subsidy, it's something that gradually is becoming unsustainable in light of what is happening right now. And it's a decision, either if it's the ruling party that wins or the opposition party that wins, that is a bugbear that they have to confront. And there's no other way to it to be removed. You would see that quietly, because now we issue sovereign debt notes, meaning we are acquiring more debt. We're taking from the excess crude account. We've done a lot of finding way of paying for this subsidy payment here and there. But at the end of the day, you can't keep doing this. So if oil prices dwindle, we might say, okay, let market forces take over and let's have the full deregulation. But my own point is, we don't want the deregulation to start from from the pockets of Nigerians. If we're going to truly deregulate, let's truly deregulate the sector. I mean, let's unbundle an NPC. Let's make sure the refineries are more efficient. Let's make sure that we have tighter controls. For example, we deregulated the diesel market, but the diesel market prices have not been in line with market realities. So we also must be able to be much more careful about what are the checks and the controls we put into that space, so that we don't build a cartel out of that industry.
Okay, just got this tweet from Swan. He says the state needs to move out of the domestic debt market. They're putting pressure on interest rates. The states do move out of the domestic market. Will we see, the kind of pressure that he seems to be talking about easing?
Yeah, maybe it will ease, but you also have to look at the exchange rate. It comes against the state governments right now to say you want to go abroad and take new bonds. And also understand that for you to take external bonds is on the guarantee of the federal government for you to take a debt out of the country. Because the sovereign nations or the market investors, they recognize Osun or Lagos State. They recognize the sovereignty of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the federal government has to do its mathematics well also before it goes ahead and says, I can guarantee your debt. And also look at your future revenues, if that could support that, if you can still be viable as a state by the time those debts are patched into your account.
Sure, it's a delicate period going forward, but your thoughts on how best the situation can be managed, let's say in the short to medium term?
In the short to medium time, take out the subsidy, look at it's a huge drain on the economy. The second thing also you should do is most states also should have to put their thinking caps on, especially expanding their IGR, very, very effective. Also be able to learn from states like Lagos, who was able to become more sufficient from their IGR compared to the FAC allocations they get. And most importantly, be very, very brutal when it comes to your expenses. Make sure that every account that you're spending on is much more well accounted for. And also imbibe transparency and accountability. It deepens the trust with the people. When people understand that there's actually no money, there's a sense of empathy and sympathy that they get with you. And also, when they see your own lifestyle also has been able to adjust that. Not you are a state governor driving 40 cars on the convoy and say, oh, you has a lot of money. So you must also show by empathy and sympathy that's really austere times.
Shehu Nibunde, Chief Executive Officer, founder of Budget, Nigeria's #1 budget analysis platform. Thank you so much for joining me on the program and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much. It's nice being here.
Well, Business Morning returns in just a moment. Please join us again.